Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. All right. So like I said earlier, a timetable was sent to us yesterday on our group regarding our upcoming test, and the test is starting on Monday. So please adhere to the timetable. This is also to let you know that you can take the test at any time of the day. May decide to take it in the morning, afternoon, evening, in the middle of the night, but it should exceed the following day. Please take note of this information so that we will be able to take your records in on time. All right. If you have any concerns, you can always chat me on the WhatsApp, and I'll be glad to give you every response that you need. All right. Please, like I said earlier, fill up the attendance. Sorry for that, please. Please fill up the attendance link. And finally, I believe our trainer is already ready for us today. And today promises to be very, very informative. So today, our topic will be competing in the global marketplace. I believe that at the end of this class, you will know the essence of competing in the global marketplace. And I believe that you are going to also add this to your daily life. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. So without further waste of time, we'll be moving into the program for today. Please, Samuel, if you are there, confirm you can hear me, and then you can take it up from here. All right, please, you can take it up from here. You're welcome.
So much, Mercy, for the warm introduction. I'm privileged to be training today's class. You are all welcome to today's class. Give me a few seconds to share my screen, and then we can proceed. All right. Good morning, everyone, once again. My name is Samuel. I'm an MBA student, an MBA marketing student, and as well a business development executive with A4S. Today, I'll be sharing on competing in the global market. And I believe we all want to see our businesses thrive. We've all seen how organizations are able to scale up to the global level. And today we'll see what it takes for an organization to become global. So in today's class, I have 5 learning objectives. At the end of today's class, I want all of us to be able to understand what global competition means. I also want us to explain the benefits and risk in going global. We'll also identify international strategies. We'll also be able to analyze global trade impact and examine cultural and ethical issues. Then we'll move on to our learning outcomes, which I believe we should be able to define global trade concepts after today's class. We should be able to evaluate drivers for globalization. We should be also able to compare different market entry strategies, and we should be able to access tech-driven competitiveness. All right. So what is global competition? Maybe you've heard about it. You've come across the word global competition. Global competition just means how companies from different countries compete with each other. So as we go along the class, I'll give you opportunities to give some examples of these things. So there are different companies which start from different places. For example, UBA started from Nigeria. Now UBA is in every other African country. That means UBA as a bank has gone global. So these companies, when they go global, there are a few things they strive for. So the first thing you should know is that if you are going global, then you are going to compete with other people or other companies for customers. because whichever country you are entering, bear in mind, they already have customers there or other organizations providing that service. Hence, you are going to compete for customers. You are also going to compete for market share, which is so important because you're a new organization in that new country. For instance, when Indomie came to Nigeria, there were already existing noodle companies. So if Indomie is going to do well and gain market share, it will have to compete. It also competes for resources. I deliberately separated resources and talent because when it comes to resources, I'm looking at all your input required for production. And talent, I made talent because I'm also looking at human resource. Because if you are moving into a new country, then you're also going to compete for technology. There are different technologies in different countries. Recently, the use of AI has come to stay. So if you are going to another country, then you're going to compete for technology and as well investment opportunities. So that is what global competition is basically about. It just refers to how companies from different countries compete with each other. So my question, do you think it's important for companies to go global at all? I'd like to hear from anyone. Do you think it's important? Should your company go global or staying in Nigeria is okay? It's enough. Can I get anyone to speak? Just one person. Do you think it's important to go global?
Yes, it's important to go global. Good morning, sir.
All right, good morning. Great. Thank you so much. So I think it's important to go global as well, like she said, because with current technology advancement, the customers' needs keep shifting and there are different trade policies governing every country. Hence, businesses must adapt to these dynamic conditions to embrace innovation and monitoring economic indicators. So what this means is that when you go global, you have the opportunity to explore different market shares. The way things are done in Nigeria will be different from the way things are done in Benin, will be different from the way things are done in Togo, will be different from the way things are done in Nigeria. So when you go global, you have the opportunity to explore different kind of things. It makes you innovative because if you go to Togo, they speak French. So that means you have to tweak your business to be able to meet those countries' regulations. So going global cannot be undermined. I listed here 5 drivers for globalization. What will move an organization to become global? The first one is advancement in technology. These days, we have EV cars, which are powered electronically. It's just because of our electricity situation, we are unable to adapt. However, technology is evolving. We also have reduction of trade barriers. There are different economic trade barriers when we go for African Union meetings, when we go for West Africa meetings where the leaders meet. There are different trade barriers they implement to enhance different trade among the countries in West Africa. There's also better transportation system. So I give an example. The ladies usually buy from Shein. They buy their clothes online and the clothes are delivered to their doorstep. How is this done? Because technology has evolved and transportation has also evolved. So you're able to buy online and the food is being delivered to you at your doorstep. There's also growth for multinational corporations. So some organizations have gone global and also we have the opportunity for global supply chain. So these are some of the drivers. These are the things that will push an organization in going global. Are there benefits of global competition? Yes. Because it's not monopoly, you are going to fight for market share, you are going to fight for limited resources. But what are some of the benefits? The first benefit we'll look at will be for the businesses, and then we'll look at second benefit that will benefit the consumers. Those who are going to be patronizing their business. The first one is increase revenue opportunities. When you go global, that means you are going to make more money because now you are in different countries, so you get more revenue. There's also economies of scale because now you've scaled up. So your business has now a bigger platform. Then also there's innovation from diverse markets. Every market will require a different strategy. So when you go global like that, you are able to become innovative, you are able to diversify, and you're able to get more money. Because at the end of the day, a business is different from an NGO. The main purpose for business is for profit maximization. Then what about we, the consumers? How do we benefit from global competition? The first one is lower prices. Because if you go to the shop to buy a car, to buy a book, and there are different books that serve the same purpose, you get the opportunity to choose one that is less expensive. So the prices are able to go down. Just imagine you go to a shop to buy biscuits. Because of the variation in the prices, you tend to one that offers the same satisfaction at a lower price. You also have more product choices. So you are able to choose because there are different variations. You can choose the best, which is of better quality. So these are some of the benefits when you go global. So going global is so important. Every organization seeks to go global. However, there are some restrictions. And as we move along in today's class, we'll learn what are some of the challenges organizations face that makes them unable to go global. So here are the risks of global competition, like I said. When you go global, the first one I listed here is there's cultural misunderstandings. Because if we are in Nigeria and we decide to go global, there'll be cultural misunderstanding because even just look at moving from one state to the other, there's language barrier because when you move to Yoruba, the language they speak is different. So you have to make your business in an attractive way such that it will be presentable to these people. The Igbos will have how they also want their businesses presented to them. And as well, we are in Africa, so cultural instability will always be a factor because you look at what is happening in the north currently and you realize that politics in our part of the world will have to be looked at. So we'll look at political instability. Then we'll look at currency fluctuations. Our Naira is not stable. So because it vacillates, you have to take currency fluctuations into consideration. Then there's global economic crisis like the Ukraine-Russia war. We are in Nigeria, but we still had an effect of that because there was shortage in supply of gas. Then there's also global supply chain disruptions because sometimes the resources you require for production come from the global level. And there's intense competitive pressure, which is also a risk of global competition. As well as we move along, if you have any questions, you can indicate. When we close today's class out. I believe the first one we all know, there's a global competition between Apple and Samsung. By the way, can I know those of you who use iPhones? Those of you use the global level, we have Apple and Samsung. How many of you use iPhones here? Maybe iPhone 7, iPhone 8, iPhone 11. Now they are 17. Can I know? Anyone? What brand of phone do you use? We are looking at examples of global competition.
I've replied on the chat box. I use an iPhone.
Okay, sorry. Use an iPhone. All right, great. Damilola. So that's an example. She uses an iPhone. I use a Samsung. These are global competition and it goes on all around the world. So when iPhone releases the iPhone 17 Pro Max, then Samsung also releases the Samsung S25 Fold. And some people want the Fold, others want the Flip. And these are global competition. We also have Toyota and Ford competing when it comes to the automobile market. We have Amazon and Alibaba competing at the e-commerce level. And we have Coca-Cola and Pepsi. No matter how much Pepsi tries to taste like Coca-Cola, they can never be Coca-Cola. And these are global competition all across the world. And these brands I'm talking about, one thing you notice is that they are in every country. When you travel to America, when you travel to Europe, when you go to Asia, you see iPhone, you see Samsung, you see Pepsi, you see Coca-Cola. All these things are seen at the global level. So that will lead us into the second session of today's class. There are about 5 sessions. I want you to be able to understand and assimilate whatever I'm sharing with you so that whenever you are being asked a question, these are real life practical things I've put together for us to be able to acquire knowledge on it. So we'll look at international market entry strategies, because the way you enter into every market is different at the international level. So we'll look at these strategies. The first one I put down here is exporting. Exporting basically means selling products to a foreign market. So when we have products in Nigeria and we take it to other countries, what it means is that we are exporting it. And there are advantages and disadvantages about exporting. The first advantage is that there's low risk because you are exporting. The risk of it getting spoiled is low. And also, there's investment opportunities. Once you export like that, you're able to get foreign exchange. So that means your revenue is going to increase. However, there are also some disadvantages when it comes to exporting, such as limited control. If the ports are shut down, if the borders are closed, that means we can't export our products. Also, the cost of shipping is very expensive. So some businesses don't want to go global because maybe you are here, you are doing your small business, you make beads, you make dresses, and you want to go global, but you're thinking the shipping cost, it's a lot of money. How much duty are you going to pay? Then you look at trade barriers, which will also become a very concerned disadvantage of exporting. Another market entry is licensing and franchising. And we have it here in Nigeria, for instance. KFC. KFC is a franchise. What does franchise mean? It means a replication of established business in every part of the world. So when you go to America, when you go to Europe, when you go to Asia, when you go to even other African countries, if you go to South Africa, you realize that the same KFC with the red logo with Kentucky on it, the same KFC is in other African countries, it's in other parts of the world. So it's been franchised. So when they come to Nigeria, they look for a franchise, then they occupy that space and set it up at the same global level. There's Chicken Republic. These are franchises. Then there's licensing that gives the company an opportunity to use the intellectual property. So the difference is that with licensing, you give the license to another organization to replicate what you do. But with franchising, you replicate it yourself. And I've given an example like KFC does in different parts of the world. So should there be any crisis in Nigeria, KFC will say, okay, we terminate our franchise. And that's how they just leave the market. We also have joint ventures and partnership, and some companies opt for this. Joint ventures means 2 companies sharing ownership and resources to enter a market. So I want to enter into the Nigerian market. Then 2 companies, usually one is already in the country and one is coming from outside. So I partner with them and I say, okay, we want to come into the country. Let's do a partnership. However, because one is already in the country, local knowledge and the people already knowing that organization is very okay. So let's say a new pharmaceutical company wants to come into the market. They'll partner with an already existing pharmaceutical company in Nigeria. And because we are already acquainted and familiar with the already existing one, what happens is that when they are entering, we are not too skeptical. We allow them to enter because we already know one. But one of the disadvantages is that there's shared control, which may also result in conflict. Because now one person wants to control the other. So I'm talking about at the organizational level, not at the consumers level. Because if it's partnership, that means two or more organizations are involved. So it may result in conflict. But joint ventures is also a good form of partnership, because sometimes you have a good business idea, but you don't have the capital, you don't have the money, you don't have the resources to scale up. Then you go for a partnership. There's also foreign direct investment. And we have a very good example here with regards to Dangote Cement. It is basically building or acquiring businesses in another country, so Toyota can have a manufacturing plant in your country. Toyota does not originate from Nigeria. However, it can set up a manufacturing plant there. There's Dangote Cement, which operates in almost all West African countries. There's some in Ghana, there's some in Benin, there's some in Togo. And they set up the plant there. So that one, Dangote doesn't partner with anyone. It just comes to the country, meets all the requirements, and now sets up in that country. That's foreign direct investment. So I want you to take note of the different strategies. So you have to assess the business you want to establish and know which one is appropriate. There are different businesses. You cannot use exporting when foreign direct investment is required. You cannot use joint venture partnerships when all you have to do is foreign direct investment. So you have to look at all these strategies and see which one best fits your organization. So we'll look at multinational corporations. And I want some of you to give examples of multinational corporations. When we talk about multinational corporations, what it basically means is that let's list companies that are in multiple countries. So not just in Nigeria, any part of the world. Can we list some? I've listed some here. Unilever, we have Nestle, we have Microsoft, we have Huawei. You can indicate in the chat section some of the multinationals you know. Any multinational, you know, there's Samsung, there's Apple, there's Honda, there's Toyota. These are all multinationals. So these are multinational organizations. That means they are in 2 or more other countries. What makes an organization multinational? Because not all companies are multinational. Some are national. That means they are just in one country. However, some are also multinational. So what makes a company multinational? The first one is the global workforce. That means they've employed people from other parts of the world. So their staff are just not Nigerians. They just don't come from one country, but they have a global workforce. So if Dangote Cement in Benin has an issue, it doesn't affect Dangote Cement or Dangote Sugar in Nigeria. Also, there's global supply chain, which is very important. So resources come from different parts of the world. And also there's standardized or adapted product standards. This basically means that the standard of quality across all their products for these multinational companies remain the same. So the standard of sugar, Dangote Sugar in Nigeria, doesn't change when it comes to Togo. It's still of the same quality. This is what makes a multinational corporation. So we'll look at some of these examples. I mentioned Unilever, I mentioned Nestle, and others. Now, how do we make global strategic decisions? Today's class is competing at the global level. Competition is so important. It's inevitable. You cannot say, I want to start a business and I'm not going to face competition. So how are you going to thrive in this competition? So we look at global strategic decisions. Here, there's a difference between global strategy and local strategy. Global strategy means you have the same product across the world with the same level of quality. But local strategy means it's been modified to fit local culture. Let me put it in very simple terms. In our part of the world, or in our part of Nigeria, we drive on the left-hand side. But in other parts of the world, they drive on their right hand. So you realize that their steering is on the right hand. So if you have a car brand and you bring it to Nigeria, maybe it's from Germany, maybe it's from Europe, you have to move your steering wheel to the left-hand side, because that's where we find our steering wheels in this part of the world. So that means that car brand has adapted a local strategy. I believe you are following. That's a good example of. So sometimes you watch movies, maybe in Korean movies, in Korean series, you realize that their cars, their orientation is different from what we have in Nigeria. And this is because of local adaptation strategy. We'll quickly move on to the need for cultural understanding. If you are going global, then you have to understand the different cultural background. And it's so important. You have to understand, first of all, the language. Like I said, if Dangote Cement is going to Togo, they'll have to change their language to French. You have to understand the social norms. You have to understand the religious norms. You have to understand business etiquette. You have to understand consumer preferences. So, for example, KFC comes to Nigeria and KFC introduces our local Fanta, our local drinks, Pepsi, in their shops. Why? Because they will have to understand that every country, every culture go global without understanding cultural cultures. You can't say because you are doing it at the global level, you are going to replicate everything you do at the global level. Sometimes you have to change things to suit the different cultures. You also have to understand global because global supply chain management is so important. A supply chain becomes global when it comes to the global level. So what it means is that when companies come to the global level, they have the opportunity to outsource their raw materials from multiple countries. So should there be a shortage in one country, because they get their raw materials from different parts of the world, they can still operate. Because like the COVID pandemic happened, businesses say that, yes, some businesses did shut down, but others still were running. Why? Because of the global supply chain management. So if there's a shortage of chicken, KFC uses, they can outsource from another country. And it's important because you are able to sell worldwide. So understanding the global supply chain system is important. Then you also look at global pricing and strategies. Businesses must consider currency exchange. And this is important because you want to export, you want to import, you have to look at the naira against the dollar. What is the exchange rate? You also look at the taxes and tariffs involved. And then you look at local purchasing power. Before you go global, have you served all the needs of the local markets? Because you also have to consider competitor pricing, which is so important. Because you have other competitors, you cannot price your goods and services at a high price and expect people to buy. When iPhone 17 in September, the price was almost the price of Samsung Fold. Why? Because they have a competition and they cannot price their product more than that. So pricing is so important, because I believe we've all gone to a shop before to buy one or two things, and there were two things. Maybe there were two for the ladies. You go to a shop to buy a dress. There are two nice dresses, but one of the key considerations you factor in is the price of the dress, because you're not going to buy a dress 50,000 naira, 500K. That's too much. You go for one that is less expensive. So pricing is so important. Then we'll look at the global strategic decisions. The first thing here I put down is ethical challenges in global business. There are challenges. If you want to go global, there are challenges. in our part of the world, in Nigeria, there's always bribery and corruption. It's everywhere, but it's just dominant in our part of the world. Corruption. Then there's exploitation of labor. So you realize that now everybody is going to China to bring goods, to bring products. So they want to exploit labor because in China, labor is cheap. There's environmental harm. So that's why now most organizations have introduced ESG, where they look at the environmental, social, and governance part of the business. There can also be misleading advertising and unfair competition. These are some of the challenges you may face if you are going global, because you want to enter into a new market, you want to enter into a new country. You must consider all these things. I hope you are learning. All right, so we'll move on to some of the cultural barriers in global competition. To become global, know that you are going to be dealing with different cultural backgrounds, and these cultural backgrounds may impact the business, whether positively or negative. It will have an effect. So the first one you should know is that the differences may impact negotiations, because you want to go global. You want your business, that dressmaking business you have, you want it to go global. How you negotiate is important. Then you look at how you treat your employees, because if you want to go global, you cannot do entrepreneurship. At that point, you need an office space, you need a shop, you need to scale up the business. So how you treat your employees is so important. How much salary do you give them? Their working condition, do they come to work at 9 a.m. and leave at 9 p.m.? Or you give them work from home? Because these days, what a lot of organizations have adapted globally, they work from home. So you go to the work office 2 times in a week, 3 times in a week, and the rest of the days you are allowed to work remotely, and it's helping. It's an adaptation strategy. Then you look at branding and advertisement. So I have a question. Which cultural differences surprise you the most? What's something that is being done in different parts of the world? So for example, I'll give a good example. In our part of the world, we write WAEC, but in America, they don't write WAEC. So it's a cultural difference. They write the GSC, they have different international exams they write, but we write WAEC, so it's a cultural difference. So you don't, when you are traveling, you don't take your WAEC outside, you attach it to whatever international exams you want to write. As well, in going global, this has become a very key component to factor in your business when you want to go global. It's called corporate social responsibility. And I do a lot of work around this, so I can speak to this a lot. Businesses don't just want to make profit, but also we look at their impact on the society, their impact on the environment. So companies must be socially responsible. What does it mean? It means there must be fair labor practices. You don't abuse your employees. You don't beat them up. Then you look at their contribution to the society. So Dangote Cement says, okay, we are building. Paralex Bank says, okay, we are constructing roads. These are corporate social responsibilities. Then you look at environmental sustainability. Now, we don't want to pollute the environment. We don't want to destroy the earth. So corporate social responsibility is so important. Before any investor gives you money, they ask for a corporate social responsibility report so that they know how you are also contributing to the society, to the environment. So Toyota does some, MTN Foundation in Nigeria does some. Different organizations perform this global social responsibility, and it's important if you are going to go global. I outlined 5 importance of ethical reputation, and I'll go straight to the point. When your organization wants to go global, having global trust is important. There was one time Samsung launched the Samsung Galaxy Fold 3, and they were all recalled. For some of the gentlemen, sometimes they make cars, and they say all the cars have a problem, so all those that have been bought worldwide should be shipped back. When they are shipped back like that, what happens is that the global trust is tempered with, now you don't trust them again. For the ladies who do makeup, if you buy a makeup product and you begin to break out, you're not going to buy again. There's also brand loyalty. How committed are you to the brand? If you buy Peugeot, maybe your parents use Peugeot, the car Peugeot, then they pass it down to their children, then their children pass it down to their grandchildren, to realize that there's brand loyalty. Then there's also investor confidence, because to go global, like I mentioned, the money's involved is a lot. So sometimes you need investment, you need monies to help you scale up. And getting an investor is important. Then there's long-term competitiveness and unethical behavior that leads to global boycotts and legal actions. There are companies that have gone global that didn't thrive. After they went global, the companies shut down. However, some also went global and they are still doing well. Like I mentioned, KFCs in all parts of the world. How did they go global and diversify in every market? It's because of some of these ethical reputations they had. So this is our last section. How do these countries compete? Because you should bear in mind that once the country or the organization is originated from a country like Dangote Cement, once it's coming from Nigeria, it's a representation of Nigeria. It's a representation of what we do in our country here. So how do they compete? The first one is there's national competitive advantage. There are some countries that are associated with a good reputation for what they do. So let's look at a good example. And I'll ask a very important question here. So I wrote here that countries gain advantage through skilled workforce, strong infrastructure, stable political environment, there's innovation and capacity, there's access to natural resources. It's so important. Different countries have different resources they have access to. So I wrote examples I gave here. Japan is usually associated with technology. Germany is associated to engineering. So somebody wants to buy a car, you say, I want a German car. Someone wants manufacturing. You want someone to produce something for you. Where will you go? You go to China. I was teaching somewhere and I asked them what is Nigeria associated with. They said bribery and corruption. Do you think it's true? What do you think Nigeria should be associated with as a national competitive advantage? You can put it in the chat section. Nigeria, what do you think we are associated with here in Nigeria? Anyone? Pricing. Okay. So when you say pricing are expensive or they are too low? So Nigeria pricing. All right, great. Let's look at a few case studies and examples, and then we'll bring today's class to an end. But at the end of today's class, like I gave you the learning outcome and the objectives, I just don't want to be sharing with you, but I want you to be picking and identifying those things that can make a business scale up. Maybe you are here, you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you are still a student. Maybe your parents have businesses. Be picking out these things and look at how you can take that small business to the global level, because this is a practical class. It's not just for examination, it's not just for tests, but it's for you to think global. So let's look at a few case studies. The first one I have here is Coca-Cola. We've all drunk Coca-Cola here before. We've all seen Coca-Cola here before. How did Coca-Cola go around all the world? How were they able to compete globally? The first advantage Coca-Cola had was they had a strong global distribution. So when you look at Coca-Cola, there's a wholesaler who will give it to a retailer, who will give it to the bar, who will give it to the parlor. That's how Coca-Cola does the distribution. So you don't go and buy Coca-Cola directly from their offices. They give it to wholesalers who give it to retailers, and now they distribute it to the consumers. They also have different flavors. Because they were losing the market share, they brought up Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Because not everyone likes sugar, because there's a lot of PR saying that there's a lot of sugar in Coca-Cola, so they say they have zero sugar. They have diet-free Coca-Cola. They have different flavors. So whatever they need be, you'll still be enticed to buy Coca-Cola. I had some this week because Coca-Cola is all around the world. There's also massive brand recognition. So you realize that sometimes you go on YouTube, you see ads of these brands. You see different ads. There's brand recognition. Sometimes there's brand recognition on DSTV. Sometimes when they are playing football, you see Coca-Cola advert. Also organizes corporate social responsibility program. Build schools, they build hospitals all across the world. So when we buy Coca-Cola, we know we are not just giving them their money, but they'll also contribute back to the society. Another case study here is Dangote Group, which is in our Nigeria. That's why I added it. Dangote competes across Africa through vertical integration. So there are two types of integration. There's vertical and horizontal. So vertical, like it means upwards. So the distribution is upwards. Then there's also local production. So Dangote produces locally. When you go to Dangote in Ghana, in Nigeria, they set up the factories in the country and then they produce there. Then there's large-scale manufacturing because they make in wholesale quantities. And also there's regional dominance. They take over the market because sometimes they have monopoly. So it's also a good case study for businesses that have gone global. So to close today's class, competing global demands deep market insight. You just don't jump into the market. You have to do a lot of research. You have to be strategic with your innovation. And you have to be careful with your cost management so that you don't end up spending so much money. Success hinges on understanding economic and political context while differentiating products and building strong brands. Companies that adapt proactively and execute well-rounded strategies will thrive in evolving international marketplaces. All right. So I have an assignment here. Please, let's all take note of the assignment. Is, what are the major risks of global competition? Provide at least 2 company examples of global business challenges. What are the major risks of global competition? I discussed some here. Then you give us 2 examples. Please, have we all written the assignment? What are the major risks of global competition? And you provide us with 2 companies examples of these global business challenges. Please, are we done with the assignment? Are we all done? So that we go to the next slide. So today we looked at competing at the global level. We went through the 5 different sections, what global market means, how to enter, the different strategies. We look at pricing, we look at ethical concepts. And Also soon we have to come to the end of today's class. I'd like to find out any questions. Anyone with any question, you can please put in the chat section or mute and ask. I'd like to thank Mercy and the entire Transformation College for this opportunity to share my knowledge with you. I believe it's been insightful. We've learned a thing or two, and we are going to apply them. Any questions, please?
Please feel free to ask your question. Please, we are waiting your responses. You can unmute and speak. Thank you. Okay, Samuel, please, can you check the chat room? You have an input. Hello, Samuel, are you there?
Okay, Mercy. We have a question. She's asking
You have an
when it
input
comes.
in the chat room.
Okay. Pricing fluctuations, political instability are major risk of global competition. Yes, that's true. You know, price fluctuations basically means the constant change in the value of one's currency compared to the other. So sometimes the naira against the dollar, when it comes to price fluctuation, there are always two currencies involved. And because we are doing global markets, maybe the product is leaving Nigeria to another country, we'll have to trade at an international price. That's what makes the dollar internationally recognized. We trade with that. So when we look at that, it will be one of the factors that causes global competition. And also, like she mentioned, political factors are important because in a country where there's war, maybe after the elections, there's political instability. It could also affect our global competition because now the quantities or the volumes we export, we are no longer able to export them. And it will also serve as a major risk. So you are right, political instability. So that's why there are different stages. If you realize that the country you are in, there's political instability, you can, instead of exporting, you can now go and set up your company or your organization in that country. So that one, you are not exporting. Everything is produced in that country locally, like what KFC does. They do joint venture partnership. So they do franchising I mentioned. So when they do franchise, what it means is that they come and set it up for you and it operates like what it does internationally. You can also do a joint venture with an already existing local partner in that country. All right. So I believe I've answered you. Then we also have market misalignment and regulatory challenges. That's true. Excellent. Market misalignment. Excellent input. I think these answers are very correct because different countries have different ways their markets are oriented, and you have to understand. And yes, it's true, regulatory challenges. If standard authority doesn't give you approval, you can't sell or you can't manufacture your product. So regulatory challenges will also have to be considered before you go global. So all these answers are right. I think all these two are good examples. So you can go on the internet and find some examples. Mercy has put the feedback form. So let's kindly fill it out. Today's class went, I believe, it's been very impactful. It's been very interactive as well. We've learned so much. So let's kindly fill our feedback forms, how we want the class to be improved, what you think we can do better, and also what you liked about today's class. On this note, I would like to thank Mercy for this wonderful privilege. I'm grateful to share with all of you. And I believe we're going to apply all what we've learned. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samuel. It was very, very interactive. Yes, it was really, really interactive, and I enjoyed from the very beginning of the class up till now. And I also believe that every other persons did same. Please, a round of applause to our trainer. I believe most of us didn't know that it's going to be a very short one. Please let's appreciate our trainer. He's really done a very good work. Thank you so much. And just like he said, I believe we are going to apply this to our daily hustles, and we are going to be seen globally, we'll be visible globally in all of our businesses. Thank you so much, Samuel. Please, can we appreciate him? Can anyone hear me? I don't seem to
Yes, we
get
can hear you.
response. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Samuel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so we have come to the end of today's class. And just like I said earlier, thank you. Just like I said earlier, many of us didn't believe that today's class is going to be very, very swift like this. But that is just how it is for today. So thank you for standing by. Thank you for your input, your responses, and your questions. So please, if you are here to fill up the attendance form is in the chat room. Kindly fill it up. And just like I would always say, we will also need your feedback on this class, the class for today. So kindly fill it up. And once you are done doing that, please indicate in the chat room, done. I don't know why most of us are not in class today, but nonetheless, today's class has been successful. As usual, the material is going to be sent to the group immediately after the class or before the day is over. You get the material for this class, and then the recording is going to come in as usual by next week, Monday. Then in addition, timetable for your test has been sent to the group. Please do, thank you, Kayode. Please do well to check it out and follow the timetable accordingly. Like I said earlier, you can feel free to take your test at any time of the day, in the morning, noon, night, in the middle of the night, but please let it not exceed the following, or let it not enter the following day, because if you look at the timetable, you will see that it's almost every day that you will be writing your test. And then also question bank is going to be sent to you people. From this question bank is where your test questions will be extracted from. So you will not have to, we don't want anybody to fail, which is why we are always sending in our question bank. So you should anticipate that before the end of today. It's going to be sent to the group. I believe that is all. If there is any other announcement, you definitely see it on your platform. Please, I noticed that a lot of us on this call, we were yet to follow our social media handles. Please, we need you to follow us on all of our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and mention Transformation College. All right. And when you do this, you are also making us to be seen globally, just like today's studies has been. All right. Thank you so, so much for your time today. And from my end, I would say have a very beautiful weekend. Thank you, Samuel, once again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everybody.